Richard Hayes had built an empire on instinct. 23 years ago, he'd opened the first harvest and hearth with nothing but a used stove and a dream. Now, at 52, he owned 47 locations across the Midwest. But lately, something had been gnawing at him. Customer complaints were up. Staff turnover was brutal. So he did what he always did when numbers stopped making sense. He went to see for himself. Nobody at the Cincinnati location knew Richard Hayes by face. Corporate had arranged everything through back channels. As far as anyone here knew, Mike Sullivan was just another middle-aged guy trying to make ends meet with a maintenance IT was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday when Richard pushed through the back door of the kitchen, clipboard in hand. His fake assignment was simple. Check the walk-in freezers for temperature fluctuations. His real mission: figure out why this particular location was hemorrhaging employees. The kitchen should have been empty, but it wasn't. Richard heard it before he saw it. A steady, rhythmic thunk echoing through the stainless steel silence. There, hunched over a cutting board, was a kid, early 20s, maybe slim build, dark hair falling across his forehead. His chef's whites were spotless despite the hour. In his right hand, a Santoka knife moved with mechanical precision, slicing through carrots so uniformly they could have been measured with a ruler. Richard stood there for a full minute watching. The kid never looked up, never paused, never reached for his phone. Just him, the knife, and an impossible mountain of vegetables. Hell of a time to be working, Richard finally said. The knife stopped mid-slice. The kid's head snapped up, eyes wide. But then his face smoothed into something careful and polite. "Oh, hey, you're the new maintenance guy, right?" "Mike, that's me." Richard gestured at the cutting board. "You always do prep at 3 o'clock in the morning? Someone's got to do it." The kid, his name tag read Ethan, returned to his carrots. "Line cooks slam during service. If I don't get this done, they start behind. You pull the graveyard shift often. Every night." Ethan's jaw tightened. By necessity, Richard had interviewed hundreds of employees over the years, and he'd learned to read the silences. This wasn't burnout. This was something else entirely. "Kitchen's dead this time of night," Richard pressed gently. "Why not work days when it's busier? Better tips. I like the quiet. Besides, I'm not after tips. I need the hours to be these hours. That's all." As Richard passed Ethan's station, something caught his eye. There, taped to the inside of the metal shelf, was a photograph. Small, maybe 4 by 6, showing a younger Ethan grinning beside a woman with kind eyes and the same dark hair. Written in faded marker along the bottom, "Mom and me, the last good day." Richard felt something twist in his chest. He'd built Harvest and Hearth on a simple philosophy. Good food starts with good people. But somewhere along the way, he'd lost sight of what good people actually meant. "Mike," Ethan was looking at him now, really looking. "You seem, I don't know, different than most maintenance guys." "How so?" "You actually listen. Most people don't." Richard felt the weight of those words. How many Ethans were out there working in the shadows of his empire, unseen and unheard? Richard made a decision right then. He didn't know Ethan's story yet, but he was damn sure going to find out. The best truths came out over coffee, not interrogations. So when his next shift started at 2 p.m., he made sure to time his break with Ethan's. "Mind if I sit?" Richard asked. Ethan glanced up, surprised. "Oh, sure. Mike, right? So I got to ask, you work graveyard, but you're here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Double shift today." Jimmy called in sick. They needed someone on prep. "When's the last time you slept?" Ethan's fingers tightened around his cup. "Sunday. I slept Sunday. For hours, maybe." Richard felt his stomach drop. "Kid, that's not sustainable. I don't have a choice." "Why the night shift specifically?" "If you need hours, day shifts got better opportunities." "I can't do days." Ethan cut him off. "I have responsibilities. During the day. The night shift is the only one that works." "Responsibilities," Richard echoed. "Family stuff." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Something like that. You ever have something you wanted, really wanted, and then life just took it away?" Richard thought about his own journey. "Yeah, I have." Ethan nodded slowly. "I got accepted to the Culinary Institute in New York. Full scholarship. 3 years ago. Best school in the country. I was going to be a real chef. Not just some prep cook chopping vegetables in the dark. Richard's chest tightened. What happened? Life. Life happened. Before Richard could press further, the head chef stuck his head in. Cole. Break's over. Yes, chef. Ethan stood immediately as he headed for the door. Richard called out. Hey, Ethan. That photo in the kitchen? She looks like someone worth working for. Ethan's hand tightened on the door frame, knuckles going white. He nodded once, sharp and quick, and disappeared. Richard pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to his head of HR. Need full employee file on Ethan Cole. Cincinnati location. Everything. Richard knew he was crossing a line. Following an employee home wasn't in any corporate handbook. But as he sat in his rental car, 3 vehicles behind Ethan's beat-up Honda Civic on Route 75 North, Richard told himself this was different. That it was Thursday morning, 6:15 a.m. The drive took 40 minutes. The file from HR had arrived last night. Ethan Cole, 22 years old. No college education. Emergency contact. Linda Cole, mother. Address: 1247 Maple Street, Dayton, Ohio. Ethan's house was a small ranch-style home, pale blue with white trim. The yard was meticulously maintained. Richard waited 5 minutes, then got out of his car. Through the large front window, he could see directly into the living room. What he saw made his heart stop. The room had been converted into a makeshift care facility. A hospital bed dominated the space. Medical equipment sat on a rolling cart. Oxygen tank, monitors for stands. And in the bed, propped up with pillows, was a woman. Linda Cole. She was thin, too thin, with a cervical collar bracing her neck. Her arms rested on top of the blankets, motionless. Ethan appeared in view, still in his work clothes. He adjusted her pillows with practiced care, checked the monitors, then disappeared into the kitchen. When he returned, he carried a bowl and spoon. Richard watched, throat tight, as Ethan pulled a chair close and began to feed her. Slowly, patiently, spooning what looked like oatmeal in her mouth, waiting for her to swallow. Linda's head turned toward her son, and even from the street, Richard could see her smile. Richard stepped back from the sidewalk, his vision blurring. The pieces fell into place with devastating clarity. The night shifts, the exhaustion, the photograph labeled Last Good Day. The culinary school scholarship Ethan had turned down. This was a son who had sacrificed everything, his education, his dreams, his entire future, to care for his mother. Richard walked back to his car and pulled out his phone. Jennifer, it's Richard. I need you to find out everything about Linda Cole. Medical history, insurance coverage, care costs. Everything. And I need it by tonight. Boss, is everything okay? Richard looked back at the small blue house. No, but it's going to be. The file from Jennifer arrived an hour later, and it was worse than he'd imagined. Linda Cole had been in a car accident 3 years ago. A drunk driver ran a red light. Traumatic brain injury, spinal cord damage at C5, C6. Paralyzed from the chest down. Insurance had covered the initial hospitalization. After that, almost nothing. And then there was the note at the bottom. Father Robert Cole filed for divorce 2 months after the accident. No contact with family since. Richard found Ethan in the walk-in cooler, doing inventory. The kid looked worse than usual, gray-faced, swaying slightly. Ethan, Richard said carefully. You got a minute? I'm kind of busy. It'll take 5 minutes. Richard stepped into the cooler, letting the door close behind them. That photo in the kitchen, the one with your mom. Ethan's expression shuddered immediately. What about it? You said you had a scholarship to culinary school in New York. I don't want to talk about this. I think you need to. Ethan set down the clipboard with a clack. Why? Why do you care? You're a maintenance guy I met 3 days ago. No offense, Mike, but my life isn't your business. Maybe not, but I've been doing this job long enough to know when someone's drowning. And you, kid, you're going under fast. For a moment, Ethan looked like he might bolt. Then something in him crumbled. It was the Culinary Institute of America. Full ride. Academic and talent-based. I've been cooking since I was 12. My mom used to joke that I'd be the next Gordon Ramsay. Richard waited. I was supposed to start in August 2022. Had my dorm assignment. My class schedule. Mom was going to drive me to New York. She'd never been. His voice cracked. She never got to go. The accident. July 23rd. 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave. Some guy leaving a bar at 2 p.m., drunk off his ass. Ran a red light, doing 60 in a 35. Mom didn't stand a chance. And you stayed. She's my mom. Of course I stayed. The school tried to defer my enrollment, but you can't defer a full scholarship indefinitely. After a year, they gave it to someone else. So you got a job here. I got a job everywhere. Worked 3 jobs that first year, but nothing paid enough. And I couldn't work days because she needed me. Home care nurses cost $4,000 a month. So I learned to do it myself. Wound care, medications, physical therapy, feeding tubes. The night shift is the only thing that makes sense. I work 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., drive home, take care of mom during the day. Sleep from maybe 7 to 9 p.m. if I'm lucky. Ethan met his eyes. I'm not complaining, Mike. I made my choice. But yeah, I'm tired. I'm so goddamn tired. Does she know? About the scholarship? No. And she never will. She already blames herself for everything. If she knew I turned down CIA for her, he shook his head. It would destroy her. The cooler door swung open. Dennis, the head chef, glared at them. Cole, break's over. Get your ass out here. Yes, chef. Richard stood there for a long moment. He'd built an empire, made millions, won awards, but he'd never done anything half as brave as what Ethan Cole did every single day to IT. Was time to change that. The following Tuesday started with bad news. Dennis had posted a memo. Effective November 15th, due to corporate efficiency mandates, night shift prep operations will be consolidated into day shift responsibilities. Richard's blood ran cold. This was his fault. He'd pushed for efficiency improvements 6 months ago, and now Ethan was going to lose his job. Richard found Ethan at his usual station, chopping onions. His hands were shaking badly. Ethan, you see the memo? The knife stopped. Yeah, I saw it. What are you going to do? What can I do? Find another job, I guess. Hope they have night shifts. Hope I don't lose the house. Dennis stormed over, red-faced. Cole, where the hell are my peppers? You're late on prep. You look like death warmed over. Maybe corporate's right. Maybe we don't need dead weight around here. Chef, I'm sorry. Try harder. I want those peppers and the zucchini done in 30 minutes. And if you can't handle it, maybe you should clock out and not come back. Richard watched Ethan's shoulders hunch forward. Ethan, when's the last time you ate? I'm fine. That's not what I asked. Richard bought a sandwich from the vending machine and put it in front of Ethan. Eat. Ethan devoured it like a starving animal. Richard bought him a second one. When's the last time you slept? I don't know. Saturday? Maybe Friday. I had to take mom to a doctor's appointment Monday. Then yesterday, I had to deal with her insurance company. They're trying to deny her muscle relaxers. His voice was rising, cracking. And now this. The shift cut. I can't work days, Mike. I can't. If I lose this job, we lose the house. If we lose the house, mom goes into a state facility. She'll die there. She'll just give up and die. His voice broke. I can't let that happen. She's all I have. Richard reached out, putting a hand on his shoulder. You're going to get through this. I promise you, Ethan. You're going to be okay. At 4:37 a.m., Richard found him curled up on the floor behind the rice bags in the dry goods pantry, dead asleep. Richard pulled out his phone and took a picture, not to shame him, but to remember this moment. Then he gently draped his own jacket over Ethan and stood guard at the pantry door. Some rest was worth protecting. Richard ended his undercover assignment Friday morning. Corporate had arranged everything. As far as Ethan knew, he'd been selected for a random employee experience interview at the regional office. They'd even sent a car for him. Richard watched from the control room as Ethan entered the studio space. The kid looked terrified, wearing khakis and a button-up shirt that was slightly too big. He doesn't know? Richard asked Jennifer. No clue. He thinks this is a standard interview. Richard took a deep breath and walked toward the studio door. Inside, 2 producers were asking Ethan soft questions. He was answering politely, clearly nervous. Richard pushed open the door and walked in. Ethan glanced up casually, then did a double take. Mike, where are you? Why are you? Richard pulled off the baseball cap. Hello, Ethan. I think we need to talk. I don't understand. What's going on? You're not in trouble. Then what is this? Who are you? My name isn't Mike Sullivan. It's Richard Hayes. I'm the CEO and founder of Harvest and Hearth. The color drained from Ethan's face. I spent the last week working undercover in our Cincinnati location. I wanted to understand what was really happening. And then I met you. Ethan stood abruptly. You followed me. You came to my house. You saw. His voice was shaking. You had no right. You're absolutely correct. I invaded your privacy, and I apologize. But Ethan, what I saw, what you're doing for your mother, I couldn't walk away. So what? You're going to fire me now? Tell me I'm a liability because I fell asleep one time? His voice broke. I gave up everything. Everything. And I'd do it again because she's my mom, and I don't care if you think I'm not good enough. I think you're extraordinary. Ethan stopped mid-breath. You work a full shift, drive an hour each way, care for your mother 24/7, and somehow still show up every night with precision and dedication. You sacrificed a full scholarship. You've been doing this for 3 years with no help. He paused. That's not a liability, Ethan. That's the definition of strength. Then why are you here? What do you want from me? I don't want anything from you, son. I'm here to give you something back. I don't understand. You will. Please sit down. Ethan sank into his chair slowly. Ethan Cole, for the past 3 years, you've carried an impossible weight without complaint. You've put your mother's life before your own dreams. But you don't have to do this alone anymore. What are you talking about? I'm talking about changing your life. If you'll let me. Ethan stared at him, tears now sliding down his cheeks. And for the first time in 3 years, Richard saw something flicker in those exhausted eyes. Hope. The paperwork took 2 weeks to finalize. Richard had laid out the plan that day in the studio. Harvest and Hearth would cover Linda's medical expenses for a full year. The company's education fund would enroll Ethan in an online culinary degree program through Johnson and Wales University. He'd be promoted to assistant prep lead with flexible hours. Ethan had cried, deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere profound and broken inside him. But the real moment was today. Richard pulled up to 1247 Maple Street at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, accompanied by Jennifer and Marcus Webb, the COO. They brought folders, documents, and a certified check. Ethan opened the door, looking better than Richard had ever seen him. The dark circles were lighter. His eyes were clearer. He'd actually slept because a home care nurse named Patricia now came from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., paid for by Harvest and Hearth. Mr. Hayes, Kulmeen, Mom's been asking about you. The living room looked different in daylight. There were fresh flowers on the windowsill now. Sunlight streamed through clean windows. Linda Cole sat in a new wheelchair positioned near the window. She wore a lavender cardigan and had her hair styled. When she saw Richard, her face lit up. Mr. Hayes, Ethan's told me what you're doing for us. I don't have the words. Richard pulled up a chair. Mrs. Cole, your son is one of the most remarkable people I've ever met. What I'm doing isn't charity. It's recognition. Tears welled in Linda's eyes. He gave up so much for me. His school, his dreams. I wanted to die after the accident, but he wouldn't let me. He kept fighting for both of us. He learned that from you. Jennifer opened her folder and began laying out documents. Mrs. Cole, Ethan, here's what we've arranged. First, medical expenses. All of Linda's care costs are covered for the next 12 months. After that, we'll reassess and extend as needed. Ethan made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. That's almost $40,000. It's an investment. Second, home care. Patricia will continue on the night shift, and we're adding a part-time day nurse. Third, education. Ethan, you're enrolled in Johnson and Wales University's online culinary arts bachelor's program. All tuition covered. You'll start January term. I don't know what to say. Say you'll work hard and make us proud. Fourth, your position. You're being promoted to assistant prep lead at our Columbus location. It's 30 minutes closer to home. Salary increased to $48,000 a year, and your schedule is flexible. Marcus stepped forward with the final document. And lastly, this is a one-time grant of $15,000 for home modifications. Ethan stared at the check. This is too much. I can't. You can, and you will, because you've earned it, Ethan. Every single bit of it. Linda was crying openly now, and Ethan moved to her side, kneeling by her wheelchair. She couldn't hug him, but she leaned her head against his. Thank you, Linda finally whispered. Thank you for seeing my boy. He's hard to miss once you know where to look. As Richard prepared to leave, Ethan walked him to the door. Mr. Hayes, why did you do this? Really? There are thousands of employees in your company. Why me? Richard paused. Because I spent 23 years building restaurants, and somewhere along the way, I forgot they're built by people. Real people with real struggles and real dreams. You reminded me why I started this company in the first place. He put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Don't waste this opportunity. You deserve to be the chef you were meant to be. I won't let you down. I know you won't, son. I've seen you at 3 a.m. chopping vegetables in the dark. If that's not dedication, I don't know what is. As Richard walked to his car, he glanced back at the small blue house. Through the glass, he could see Ethan and Linda talking, both smiling, both crying, both finally allowed to breathe. Sometimes the best business decisions had nothing to do with profit margins. 6 months later, May 2026, the Columbus location of Harvest and Hearth was finally opening. Richard stood near the ribbon stretched across the entrance. A crowd had gathered, press, local officials, community members. But Richard's eyes kept drifting to the parking lot. Then he saw it. Ethan's Honda Civic pulling into a reserved spot. Ethan emerged first, wearing a chef's coat. Not the standard white one, but a sharp black one with his name embroidered on the chest. Chef Ethan Cole, assistant kitchen director. He'd filled out over the past 6 months. The gauntness was gone. The dark circles had faded. He looked young again, alive again. But Richard's attention shifted to the passenger side, where Ethan was carefully helping someone out. Linda Cole, sitting in her wheelchair, looked radiant. She wore a blue dress that matched her eyes. Her smile was brilliant and real. Sorry we're late, Ethan called out. Traffic was crazy. You're right on time, Richard said warmly. The crowd quieted as Richard stepped up to the microphone. Thank you all for coming. 6 months ago, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went undercover in one of my own restaurants. I wanted to understand what was really happening on the ground level. What I found changed everything. He gestured to Ethan. I found a young man working the night shift, chopping vegetables at 3 in the morning. I found someone who'd sacrificed a full scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America to care for his mother after a devastating accident. Someone who worked himself to exhaustion every single night, never complaining, never asking for help. Linda reached up and squeezed Ethan's hand. He squeezed back, blinking hard. Ethan Cole reminded me why I started Harvest and Hearth 23 years ago. Not to build an empire, not to maximize profits, but to create places where good food and good people come together. Where hard work is recognized. Where dreams don't have to die because life gets hard. He paused. 6 months ago, Ethan was surviving. Today, he's thriving. He's completed 2 semesters of his culinary degree with a 4.0 GPA. He's become an integral part of our Columbus team. And today, as assistant kitchen director, he's helping open a restaurant that will serve this community and provide opportunities for others like him. The crowd applauded. Richard handed Ethan the oversized scissors. I think you should do the honors. Me? But this is your restaurant. No, this is our restaurant. And it starts with you. Ethan took the scissors with shaking hands. Linda was crying happy tears. His grandmother was recording everything, beaming. Before I cut this ribbon, Ethan said, his voice carrying across the crowd, I want to say something. He looked at Richard. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd used up all my chances, all my hope. I was drowning and didn't even know how to ask for help. His voice cracked. Mr. Hayes saw me, really saw me, and he didn't just give me a paycheck. He gave me my future back. He turned to his mother. Mom, you always told me that good things happen to good people. I stopped believing that after the accident, but I believe it again now. I'm so proud of you, baby. Ethan positioned the scissors. This restaurant isn't just about food. It's about second chances, about not giving up, even when everything feels impossible, and about the people who see us when we're invisible. He cut the ribbon in one smooth motion. The crowd erupted in applause, but Richard stayed focused on Ethan, who had knelt down beside his mother's wheelchair. They were talking quietly, foreheads nearly touching, in their own private moment. Then Ethan stood, took a deep breath, and headed into the kitchen, his kitchen, where his team was waiting. Richard pulled out his phone and looked at a photo he'd saved from 6 months ago. Ethan asleep in the pantry, exhausted and alone. Then he looked through the open kitchen window at Ethan now, calling out orders, leading his team, moving with confidence and purpose and joy. Richard smiled and deleted the old photo. He didn't need it anymore, because sometimes the best story wasn't about how far someone had fallen. It was about how high they could rise when someone believed in them.